What's up, everybody, and welcome back to the Combat Corporation, your source of combat sports. I'm your host, Al, the Postmaster Tomorrow, and today I have a gear review on the Combat Corner MMA Spar Gloves. Alright folks, as always, I am incredibly excited to bring you yet another gear review, as today I have one of the most requested MMA Sparring Gloves I've had on the channel for a while. That is the Combat Corner MMA Spar Gloves, and this is your standard MMA Sparring Glove, which is usually a shorter or sometimes longer, but rounded MMA Spar Glove that is perfect for sparring, and most people will use them for training like bag work and mitt work as well. It's great for protecting your knuckles, and this also keeps sparring safe for full live MMA sparring contact. Now, these gloves have been requested for a while, ever since I've released a few other MMA sparring glove videos, and a lot of people have said, well, I see a lot of people using the Combat Corner MMA Spar Gloves, and it's true. They have become one of the more popular MMA Spar Gloves on the market, at least in my opinion, because you see a whole ton of people using them. I even have 4 or 5 different teammates using the Combat Corner MMA Sparring Gloves. As far as it goes, Combat Corner is one of the more popular brands out there on the market now. I know I finally decided to go through some of their lineup with their HMIT Sparring Gloves I recently reviewed, and then for Christmas, a gift to myself I got for Christmas was the HMIT MMA Sparring Gloves, so that video will be coming out pretty soon after this, as well as the HMIT regular boxing gloves and a pair of HMIT shin guards. So that was my Christmas gift to myself that I do. And then overall, I was really excited to try these out because so many people have had them, a lot of people in my gym. And then once again, as far as world champions go, you can talk about middleweight champion of the world, Alex Pereira, actually uses these for MMA sparring, and he's sponsored by Combat Corner. Then you got guys like Bilal Muhammad, Aljamain Sterling, Brandon Moreno. All these guys are either top contenders or are world champions in the UFC right now. And then on top of it, you also have the Sergio and Anthony Pettis, the Pettis brothers, actually use these. And Combat Corner in general is really used by a lot of Rufus Sport athletes. I think Duke Rufus actually has something to do with the manufacturing or like with some part of ownership of Combat Corner. I know they operate out of a small factory in Thailand, but I know Duke Rufus has something to do with them, and they sell stuff in Rufus Sport. So you got guys like Gerald Mershar or Paul Felder, a bunch of other guys like both in UFC, Bellator, PFL, name it, use these gloves. So they are very well popular. Same thing for Combat Corner. It was established in 2007. And like I said, they've really been a staple of Duke Rufus and Rufus Sport. If you go and watch anything to do with that gym, I mean, it's all over the place, and all those guys have it. I mean, even Tyron Woodley, Ben Askren, CM Punk at one point even used these. So they are a very well-known MMA sparring glove, for one, and they're a very well-known brand used around the world. So with that said, let's go into my exact model here. And for one, you have a couple different color options you can get and a couple different sizes. I have the L/XL size, so it goes large/extra large, and then there's also S/M, which is small/medium. So it doesn't come in 4 different sizes. It comes in one size or 2 different sizes that will probably fit most hands, and in this case it does fit my hand pretty well. And you got a couple different color options. I chose the matte white, but there's also a matte green, a matte black, and I believe a matte red that you can get. And every now and again Combat Corner releases some other cool colors, but I decided to go for the matte white because I don't really have too many white things as far as gloves go, and it looked pretty cool. The only thing that I do like Combat Corner, what they did, some people will complain about it, which makes no sense to me, but they had to put it on the website, which means someone had to complain about it. basically they're saying if you get the matte white finish, guys, don't be surprised if it gets dirtier faster, because white usually stains very easily. I have not had that happen too bad with this glove yet, nothing that could just be wiped off, but I got the L/XL matte white finish. There's a few other size options. Well, there's one other size option and a few other color options. It only comes in Velcro, as most MMA sparring gloves will, which is completely okay. So it's only hook and loop. I don't know of many MMA sparring gloves that have lace-ups. I've never seen it. That's just kind of how it goes. But let's go into the look of the glove, talking about, once again, we have that really nice shiny matte white finish. And you can see the whole glove, not just the gold part, although that looks really cool in the light that I can see in the camera here. It is a very shiny matte white glove, and it looks very well done as far as the painting goes and everything like that, and the screen printing or sublimation into the synthetic leather that we got going on here. So it's a very shiny glove. And then on the back, we go to the striking surfaces, all that matte white finish right on the very circular surface that we have for a MMA spar glove, as usual. And then we come back here and you can see that the Combat Corner logo is a black outline. The white is still in the back here, except for the gold that they have in the top part of the inner C. As you can see, it's a C and then C here. Which a lot of people ask me, do you have anything to do with them because your logo looks similar? My logo is actually supposed to be a reference and a homage to Capsule Corporation from the Dragon Ball series, not Combat Corner. I actually had the courtesy to reach out to Combat Corner and say, hey, am I okay to use this logo? And they said, so long as you're not slapping it on gloves and trying to sell them, you're good. So that's good. And so I never plan to do that anyway. But when I'm here, once again, you can see that Combat Corner logo. It's a very nice logo here. When we turn the glove to the side, it's the same white, same thing. If we go to the front, it is the same white, and the thumb is also the same matte white finish that you have. Really, the whole glove is your matte white finish, except for this really cool matte black on the back that has corner, CRNR, in that gold, and it's a very shiny, reflective gold that feels like it's sublimated into the material itself, because I cannot feel any rays or bumps to it anywhere. So I think that's sublimated right into the leather, which is nice. I think all of the stuff is sublimated right into, well, it's not leather, synthetic leather. Either that or it's very good and screen printed as well. Then when we come down here to the bottom of the wrist strap here, you can see it's a CRNR in gold as well. It has that same reflective as right there. And it also says established and copyrighted basically in 2007 right there at the bottom. So it's telling you when it was established. I think exactly what it says is Combat Corner registered trademark USP to established 07. So it's basically the trademark has been established since 2007 is what they're trying to tell you. When we open the wrist strap, you can see that it's a very long wrist strap rather that has white, and it has a small amount of black where the Velcro goes, and then here it says corner, which is in a red stamp hanging off, or a red tag hanging off right there. So it looks pretty cool. Then when we turn it around, you can see that we also have black piping on the wrist strap as well as black piping on the thumb and underneath the finger guards right here. But the one area that you don't have piping is towards the top of the fingers, which is white, and that is just an exposed felt material. But when we go into the actual build and construction of the glove, the entire glove is made out of a very strong synthetic engineered leather, which is, you know, where a lot of people go nowadays. It's vegan friendly is the way I know. I actually have a teammate that does not use any leather products or anything like that because he's just against that, which is okay. And so he actually uses these and says that he likes these a lot because they're made of synthetic leather. So, you know, save the animals, I guess. But when you come down to this material, it's very strong. It's a very soft material, and it's actually a decently thick amount right over the padding here. And since it's so soft, it does help the break-in process of the glove itself. It's actually a pretty stretchy material too. It doesn't feel like it's going to rip. It feels kind of like your standard ringside like boxing gloves, like the Apex boxing gloves, or like your standard synthetic material, only it doesn't have like the little diamond grooves, and it feels a little bit softer and plusher, but you can definitely tell by smelling it, it is, you can smell the chemicals. It's not a harsh scent, but I mean, when you take them out of the bag, it kind of smells like when you're taking, sneakers, like athletic basketball shoes that have like the rubber soles. That's kind of what it smells like when you take it out of the bag, and it does kind of reek the room for a second. It doesn't smell bad though; it just kind of smells fake, which is expected with a synthetic material, which is okay. So obviously we can't knock them for that. Then we go into the padding of the glove, and that's where, they kind of fall in for me with a bunch of other gloves out there on the market. They actually use an IMF Tech injected molded foam glove. So basically IMF is one solid mold. And what they do is they inject it with a type of gel or a type of material, and what that does is it keeps it solid in one state, so it doesn't move. It doesn't change any, really. It's going to stay in this shape the whole way. The only thing that sucks about IMF Tech, although it's very good for knuckle protection, it's very good for sparring, it's very good for everything. It's what they considered, a lot of people call it ringside foam because ringside really developed a lot of it. When they start punching bags and stuff like that, the only downside to it, other than it's very versatile, is that once IMF Tech starts to break apart, it's very difficult to keep it intact. And you will see that a lot with some ringside gloves. Once they start to bubble, that padding, because it's one solid piece, if one chip starts to fall off, the rest of the piece is going to start to bubble, fall apart as well. So that's the one thing about IMF Tech, although it's a very innovative piece of technology for foam, and it's very good for your knuckles, for supporting you and your sparring partners and everyone else. It actually works pretty well that way. So it's actually, when you get it out of the box, it's actually a pretty stiff IMF Tech. It's a little stiffer than some. So it did take some time to break in before I felt comfortable with sparring it, but now you can see that it's actually a pretty soft foam that folds pretty well. It doesn't really crease inward because that's the whole point. It's supposed to just kind of push in and protect you and your sparring partner like that. And you can actually hear the air escaping the IMF Tech. But basically, once again, the IMF Tech, the injected part is they inject it usually with the type of gel mold that goes on the inside. It's not actual gel like a gel padding, but it injects the foam itself to keep it in one spot and to keep it durable for a long time. When we come to the back of the wrist here, it feels like your standard, kind of like, I won't say it's rubber. It does feel like more like your standard insulation foam feel that you'd get. It feels like a high density foam, I'd say, honestly. It feels like, like a knuckle guard has been put on the back for wrist support. And it feels pretty good. And you got that same feeling here on the thumb as well, which is a nice padded thumb. So they definitely put some type of foam here on the back of the wrist and on the thumb here to keep your wrist and thumb protected, and so it stays tight to your wrist. And you can feel that right around here for the lining as well, which is nice. So it definitely hugs your wrist, and you'll see that in a second. And then you can see the overly pronounced curve that you have as far as the knuckle compartment goes. So your hands are here, so it tries to prevent eye pokes as much as it can, like most MMA gloves will do nowadays, especially sparring gloves. Once again, we have a very, very long wrist strap, which is nice. I really like the wrist strap because what this does is it allows you to pull it nice. The only thing is because of that overly pronounced curvature, although I have tons of room for my hand, I really have to kind of crawl and find my fingers in here, and I find that this bunches up quite a bit at the bottom. You can see that this here is nice and open and free, but I have to put my fingers in and then it'll curve up like that. I think that might be on purpose so you can kind of have, the snugness to it, but I don't see how you'd prevent that. It's not uncomfortable really, but that's just something that happens. And then you just pull that back down, and then we pull this through the little loop here. And when I say this thing is stuck to my wrist, it ain't coming off. It doesn't move, it doesn't budge, it's right there. The only thing is having that overly pronounced cupping feature is it's really forcing my hand down like this. And here's the thing, with every MMA glove on the market, I don't care what they tell you, I can still poke you in the eye just that easy. It just makes it a little bit more difficult to do so. So this is very much more for like striking. Would I say that it favors a grappler? No, I wouldn't. It is kind of bulky, and I'll put this one on so you can kind of see how the grips operate. It is kind of bulky, short and bulky. So I mean, as far as like getting underhooks, overhooks and stuff, it's not too bad. But sneaking around the neck, if you're trying to really just fish it underneath, you can kind of see how that's going to work. I mean, It's literally like having a tennis ball under my chin, for one. But with here, you know, my pound-to-pound grips are really the best ones to get. S grips are really hard, or 8-finger grips, whatever you like to call it. They're very difficult to get, as you can see. I mean, basket grips are, you can't do it in any MMA sparring glove, really. But overall, it's very difficult to get some grips, in my opinion, but it is very comfortable to strike in, and it's very much more for, you know, that sparring aspect of striking. So it's very much more an MMA sparring glove meant for striking and MMA. But overall, the wrist support feels awesome because of that wrist cuff. Really strapping down here, it's not going anywhere, and then you have that bar for added wrist support. And honestly, the thumb does feel pretty secure when you got that little padding right here. So overall, it feels pretty good, but let's go into the bag work so I can show you some grips, and I can show you how these gloves operate in action.
So when it comes to hitting the bag with these, you get really nice knuckle protection because of the thick IMF Tech padding. You also get really good transference of weight when it comes to grappling, throwing strikes from all angles. These were really developed for that type of striking sparring. You know, I can shoot pretty well on this. I can get really good grips, but I do notice on the mat it is a little bit difficult to get like underhooks and overhooks in certain positions. But overall, these are actually really good gloves, really light on your hand, give you a lot of knuckle padding and protection on the bag. So looking at these gloves, the matte white really sticks out, and you can see I'm really trying to grip. So obviously a basket grip's not going to work. Palm to palm is really your best bet because even S grip is a little hard. The wrist strap is pretty thick, and sneaking under your neck and underhooks can be a little bit difficult sometimes, but they do look really nice. They are really meant more for like a striking MMA style sparring, in my opinion. They do a really good job in the grappling department, but what I do like about these gloves is the matte color that you get with all the other color models as well, and the gold that sticks out on all of them. Overall, they look really sharp, and I think you're going to enjoy getting hit by these MMA sparring gloves.
All right, folks, so my final verdict on the Combat Corner MMA spar gloves is they are a really good spar glove. I can see why they're so popular, but for me, they are also kind of in the category as like an old reliable, meaning that there's other gloves out there that do a really good job. I'd still like some other gloves over these. Obviously, there are some gloves that are made better. Like I think the Sandoval, you know, Gold Strike, I think is a better MMA sparring glove. Obviously, the Asami Pounding Glove, I think is better. And then, of course, the Combat Sports, rather, you know, Max Strike is one of the, you know, the gold standards. But I do think that these gloves are reliable. And for the price that they go for about $60, that's usually a really good area for a good piece of equipment that's going to last you a good amount of time. But there's just some things that I would change about it if I could, and I think this glove is kind of doing a lot of it on purpose. As far as like the design of it goes, so I can't fault them for their design. I just wish there were some things that I would personally change, and also maybe go over a little bit of a durability check as far as stitching goes, is where where my main concern lies. So let's go into the cons of it first, I'd say. Let's start with the negatives. For one, I think the stitching is going to fall apart really easy because you can already see the fray here on the thumb, and the other thumb frays a little bit towards the bottom here as well. As you can see, some of the stitching is starting to uplift like a little bit. And the other thing that I really worry about, that I've honestly seen with a lot of these, some of my teammates have had this happen, is that this stitching, you can see the seams, it almost seems like it's, how can I word it? It's like struggling to hold the padding in because there's so much thick padding, and it's like they didn't use enough and they had to overlap the stitching. And you can see all the wrinkles and stuff, which is normal, but then you see like the little lines here. It looks like there's holes ready to just uplift and pop out like that. Granted, that hasn't happened yet with these, but I worry that one day it will. And it even looks a little worse over here. You can see the little black spots. It looks like it's about to boop and pop right up, which I don't like. The other thing is you kind of get that same thing down here, right? And you can see all that. And then on top of it, I wish I took pictures of it at the gym last time. A few of my teammates have actually had that happen, especially down here where the wrist bar separates from the knuckle padding, right down here. Now, the one thing that I like about this is that you have that really good hinge style of knuckle support, right? And you can see that it has that hinge for a natural fist, which is always great, that I talked about earlier. The only thing is like because of that, I wonder if it's pulling too much down here and it's going to eventually rip it up, especially if you're grappling in these a lot. You know, that's something that I'm not looking forward to as far as those go, is that if that ever bust open, I wouldn't be too happy with that. And I can definitely see that happening because I have seen it happen with about 2 other pairs of gloves. And I also see stuff like the Velcro here on the back. It hasn't happened for me yet, obviously, because these are still somewhat newer. They're only about a month and a half, 2 months old for me, is that this Velcro strap kind of starts to uplift here on the side and here on this side as well. So that's something that I've seen happen. And some of my teammates have had their gloves only for about 4 or 5 months, not too terribly much longer than how long I've had them. So that just kind of gives you an idea. And I also think it could be down to they don't take care of their stuff as much as I do, which not a whole lot of people do, which I get. But you're also going out towards the general populace, and they're going to use it like everyone else, like my teammates would. So I would just try and keep up with cleaning the glove, which that is actually a positive I want to go to, is that the glove is super easy to clean because of that synthetic material. Just a Lysol wipe and then some disinfecting spray on the inside, and it's going to take care of it. You just use a dryer sheet if you want the smell to go away. Another design thing is that, like I said, it hinges really well. I like that, but the overpronounced curve of the knuckle makes it difficult to get a comfortable grip. And sometimes when I'm grappling, I can definitely feel it in the back of my hands, like I'm just flexing way too hard to get a good grip, and it's very difficult to keep a good grip inside of this glove. So it is very much more of a MMA sparring glove that was designed more for the striker, which Combat Corner is more of a kickboxing type of brand. So it doesn't really surprise me that they designed it that way. I just think if you're a pure grappler, you might want to look into some other ones that have a bit more flexibility, that's not flexed over so bad. The IMF Tech padding is usually what you see in a lot of other gloves out there. I mean, even the Combat Sports Max Strike, I believe, uses IMF Tech. A lot of other brands do use IMF Tech. I mean, all your Engages use IMF Tech. All your Sanables will use IMF Tech. It's just very much it's a good padding that you're going to get at the end of the day. This is just a little stiff when you get out of the box, but it breaks in. It took me maybe a day or two to really break these in on the bags. That's the other thing I do like about these, is that it's actually a nice bag glove and a nice mitt glove that I love using when I hit the bags, because it has that added protection. So say you're not quite ready for a thin bag mitt or like a thin MMA bag glove or a thin MMA fight glove, you have your MMA sparring glove here with a good amount of padding to it. I mean, this glove has some great padding to the knuckles, and it's excellent wrist support as well because of that very long, and I mean super long wrist strap, and that might be another thing people don't like, is the long wrist strap. I personally love it. I think it's a great design. I also love that you can open it like this. So Combat Corner did a great job for that for me. But overall, it feels really good here. And the lining is super comfortable. Like I talked about earlier, it has that very nice, like I always call it the dry fit pillow, but it has like that cotton poly blend type feel, and it's nice and comfortable on the back. And there's enough room in here to put a small amount of hand wraps, but to be honest, you almost don't have to because of how thick that padding is that you got going on there. So overall, the glove does shine in safety as far as protecting my hand and protecting my sparring partner because of how soft the glove is after time. It does take a little bit to break it in and soften the padding up for you, but that's for every glove on the market. So that's not something to complain about. My big complaints would be the stitching, I would say, and then just kind of the grappling aspect of it. For me, anyways, a guy, I'm more of a Greco guy, so I kind of rely off really strong, heavy, fat grips. I can't get them as well in these. They're also a little bulky to go under the arm, obviously, and to go around your neck because of how big and puffy the glove is as far as the top goes. It's also very top heavy. I will say that much. Obviously, you're going to think it's top heavy because of all the padding. It does feel fairly well balanced. I mean, if I put it like here, it is fairly well balanced. If I try and balance it on one, it actually went the other way. So who knows? Maybe there's more weight towards the back, but it feels like a decently well balanced glove, and it feels like there's really nothing on your hand. But at the end of the day, there's obviously more going towards the front than there is the back. So it's probably going to fall. Well, now that time it fell off that way. So overall, decently balanced glove. It definitely has a little bit more weight toward the front. And overall feels really good on the hand. It's very comfortable and it's very good in that aspect. So if I had to give these gloves a final rating out of 10, I'm going to give them a solid 8 because, I think the price point is good, $60. I mean, kind of beats a lot of other, instead of buying like a $20 pair of like the Sandoval Essentials that are going to crap out after a while, or getting the Battle Forge series, which are okay, but those are about $40, $50. I would just settle for this for $60 or $65 about is what it goes for, and get something that professionals around the world trust and that will last you a good amount of time so long as you take care of them. I just worry about having that stitching kind of fray apart, which I'm seeing a little bit already, and I don't like that. But on top of it, it feels really good. You just kind of need to get used to the fact that you need to kind of open your hand really hard to open the glove. That might be annoying for a pure grappler. So if you are more of a wrestler, more of a jiu-jitsu guy, or a couch wrestler, or whatever grappling art you'd like to practice, I would say maybe get something that's a little bit more flexible, has a little less padding if you're not going to, primarily strike with these. But I also have a lot of teammates that are wrestlers that get their grips just fine with these. Though I have asked a few of them, they say, yeah, it's definitely a little hard to get open and get certain grips, which is completely understandable. But overall, I think Combat Corner did a really good job. Definitely a reliable sparring glove that I think a lot of people would enjoy using. And overall, I've had a great time using them, and I'm going to continue to use them. So who knows? Maybe I'll tell you how they're doing after a little while. I've had these for about almost 2 months now. They're doing a pretty good job. No, I've had them for about 2 months. I got them right after Christmas. I think they came in December 27th, and we're pretty close to March now. So I've had them for about 2 months now. And overall, they're doing a pretty good job, and I like them. Do I like other MMA gloves better? Of course. But you know what? For $60, this is a great intermediate to pro level glove that is trusted by world champions. So once again, I give them a solid 8 out of 10. I think they did a good job for a great protective MMA sparring glove. There's just a few personal preferences I think they could change. But that's been my review of the Combat Corner MMA spar gloves. Thank you so much for choosing the Combat Corporation, your source for combat sports. As always, like, comment, and subscribe, but above all else, comment and let me know what you thought about this review, and let me know what piece of equipment you want me to review next. Also, follow me on all my social medias. I usually post once a day to each, whether it be TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook. I'm available on there, and feel free to message me, and I'll try to get back to you as soon as I can. I get a lot of messages nowadays, so I'm doing my best. But overall, please, once again, like, comment, subscribe, hit that notification bell for the next video, and thank you so much for watching this episode. And as always, I'll see you on the next episode, everybody. Have a great day.